Rob Dibble Show with Ben Darnell on your afternoon drive. Thank you so much for keeping us on the air. Joining us now on our hotline, Mike Petraglia from CLNS Media. Covered the Patriots for 20 years before he went back to Cincinnati, where he's from, and covered Mike Vrabel's career and the 3 Super Bowl wins that he had, and has now covered his career as a head coach when he was with the Titans, Texans, etc. But, probably no surprise to you, Mike, that Vrabel comes back to the Patriots as their head coach.
As soon as I heard word, Rob, that the Patriots were considering moving on from Gerard Mayo, I don't know, with 6 to 7 weeks left in this past season, the first name that came to mind was Mike Vrabel. He's a natural fit for it. I've always thought, from the people that I've spoken inside the organization, that people like Jonathan Kraft would love to have Mike Vrabel back. And from what I understood, in Bill Belichick's final days with the Patriots, the understanding was their first choice was Mike Vrabel. Lo and behold, it comes out that Robert Kraft had sort of, for all intents and purposes, promised the gig to Gerard Mayo several years prior. So the Krafts were in an almost untenable situation. And I understand why the Krafts wanted to go with Gerard Mayo. I believe, Dibs, that they thought there'd be a lot more infrastructure in place around Mayo to make it work. As it turned out, as Robert Kraft acknowledged last week in his press conference, that falls on the Kraft family, Robert and Jonathan, for not doing a good enough job putting a support system around Gerard Mayo. And once you knew they were willing to move on from Gerard Mayo, the next natural choice was Mike Vrabel. And they just had to hope that the Ohio State gig would not open and that Vrabel wouldn't be thrown a sackload of money by Ohio State. Well, as it turns out, I think Ryan Day has saved his job, and Mike Vrabel made it clear to the Krafts, I want to get back in the NFL. And that's where we are today.
Okay, so now the dust is settled, and now he's going forward as the head coach of the Patriots. What does Mike Vrabel need to be successful?
Well, Ben, that's a great question. I think he needs his own autonomy and his own football staff around him to feel comfortable. I know he is bringing in someone from the New York Giants, according to a report out there, that he's going to have somebody, I think, in charge of football personnel that he is familiar with. That's another thing that I think really hurt Gerard Mayo. They kind of stuck him in post forma with Elliott Wolf. Well, he didn't have a good understanding of what Elliott Wolf wanted to do in terms of building a roster, but Mike Vrabel goes into the job telling the Krafts, this is the way we are going to build the roster if I am to be your head coach. And I think that kind of thinking and that kind of forward planning, if you will, of the football operation will, by default, make it better than Gerard Mayo had with the Patriots.
I guess the reports are coming in. This is the last half hour, Mike, that this guy Ryan Cowden is going to join him. So he's going to bring this guy from the Titans. So Mike Vrabel, like you said, is going to surround himself with people he can trust. Let me ask you about that as well. I mean, this Vrabel guy, I listened to Bill Belichick talk about him. You covered him as a player. Tell me about him as a player, because Belichick said how smart he was as a player. Then Belichick had to go against him as a coach, and they actually changed the rule because of how smart Vrabel is, and the timeouts and icing kickers and stuff like that. So tell me more about Mike Vrabel, the player, and his mentality.
It's funny, Dibs, that I always thought that Mike Vrabel was guarded when he spoke with the media, oftentimes guarded. There would be a few times where he'd let that down a little bit, and he'd show you his true personality, which was he was smart as a fox, and he knew how to win little battles on the field by getting inside people's heads. And that's what you always gathered from guys like Teddy Bruschi, Ted Johnson, they've come out this week saying that he's the smartest player they've ever played with. That is not to diminish the X's and O's that Mike Vrabel brought to the table. And the other thing I can tell you, and this earned him a defensive coaching job at Ohio State right after his playing days, he can scheme with the best of them. And he knows where players are supposed to be on the field at all times. And that's the one thing I do remember about covering him, is he could always talk about accountability for where people were supposed to be when a certain defense was called. That's the one thing I do remember about the X's and O's of covering Vrabel. And that's where I can see where guys like Teddy Bruschi and Ted Johnson would say he's one of the smartest guys to play that they've ever played with. Guys like Rodney Harrison always knew that Mike Vrabel would have things set up in front of him and would always be in the right place at the right time. And that allowed the secondary to play in a very aggressive stance many times.
Obviously, there's a lot of player personnel things that the New England Patriots have to fix in the next couple of weeks and in the draft. But Ryan Tannehill, Marcus Mariota, in my estimation, are the best two quarterbacks that Vrabel's had to work with when he was at the Tennessee Titans. Tannehill had 1 year where he snuck into the Pro Bowl. Other than that, I would think that Drake May is a better option. What say you as far as what he's walking into offensively? Because we know he's a defensive guy. We know he's, all about running the football and stopping the run. But offensively for him, is this a good start for him with Drake May?
I think it's a great start. And yes, it's a great point, Ben, that he has a quarterback that he did not have previously. Those quarterbacks were either run-heavy quarterbacks in a Ryan Tannehill or really a wing option quarterback in Marcus Mariota.
Yeah.
I think that with Drake May, they have the ability to attack downfield. Now, that being said, you've got to get Drake May some targets at the wide receiver position. They have been, I think this is well documented. They've been really abysmal in that regard. So they got to get him some wide receiver targets and attack downfield. They've also got to assess where they are with Ramondre Stevenson. And can he get over the 7 or 8 fumbles, whatever it was he had this past year, 7 lost fumbles. They can't have that going forward if you're going to be in a Mike Vrabel offense. I do think what would help Mike Vrabel a lot is bringing in a coordinator. The name out there has been mentioned many times, is Josh McDaniels. Bring him in, and I think he can really help Vrabel get Drake May to where they want him to be, where they can feel comfortable attacking defenses down the field. Because I think if you have a Drake May, you have a big arm, and he has shown in his college days and certainly at times last year with the Patriots, he can throw downfield. So get a coordinator in there that can work with him in that regard, and I think that would be a great step for Vrabel.
Talking to Mike Petraglia, he covers the NFL for CLNS Media. All right, so the Ravens pretty much easily dispatched the Steelers. Now it's Bills-Ravens next week. What do you got for us on the Ravens? Can they beat the Bills? Are they good enough?
Well, I think it's a matter of can the Ravens dictate the terms of that game? Can they run the ball? Can not only Derrick Henry run the ball, can Lamar Jackson get outside against the Bills and create the way he can create? And if they can do that, I like the Ravens next weekend against the Bills. If he can't, the irony of this is that it could be Josh Allen doing the same thing to the Ravens that the Ravens want to do to the Bills, right? And that is, to me, where it's going to be fascinating to see how this game unwinds. I like the fact that, quite frankly, the Ravens have more weapons than the Bills do and have more ways to attack them, especially on the ground. And I think that could be the determining factor. And also, let me also add, I love the tight end passing game of Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
Isaiah Likely is a massive factor in a game like this coming up next weekend. So I like the Ravens in this game. I know everybody is saying this is Josh Allen's year, this is Buffalo's year, but I still like the Ravens.
Mike, I grew up on the border of Indiana and Ohio, and the two universities I hate the most in life is Notre Dame and Ohio State. And, man, they're playing a stupid national championship now. How bonkers is that part of the world, just the Midwest, getting those two teams in the final game?
I think it's great being here in the heart of it all. It's 50-50 split. I got to tell you, where I am in Cincinnati, there's a lot of Catholic schools and Catholic football schools that are all for Notre Dame, going back to the days of Jerry Faust when he coached the late, great Jerry Faust, when he left Moeller to take over as head coach of Notre Dame back in the early 80s. I think it's still an Ohio State region, and I think you're going to see 60-40 Ohio State. I'd say the split is that heavy. I like Ohio State in this game just because I think they have so many weapons and have so many elite players in the trenches. I think that they're going to be able to wear down Notre Dame. That being said, Notre Dame has the it factor in this college football playoff, and I think it's going to be a close game. I think it could be a classic.
We've talked about Marcus Freeman. I mean, could either one of these guys go to the NFL? And especially everybody seems to be really loving this Marcus Freeman dude.
Well, Marcus Freeman, of course, there's speculation out there that the Chicago Bears are very interested in him. You can see why. I think certainly either one of these guys could probably make it in the NFL. I think Marcus Freeman's personality is probably more suited to the NFL because I think his temperament right now, I think, is more suited for the National Football League. I think Ryan Day might be a little bit different. I think Ryan Day is best suited for Ohio State, and if Ryan Day can match the Michigan quarterback that was recruited, and I forget his name, but as long as Ryan Day can keep the pipeline coming in of talent and get the NIL money, if Ohio State wins this national championship, if I were Ryan Day, I would stay at Ohio State because you got a great job. You could become Nick Saban. I really do believe that.
So thank you so much, Mr. Petraglia. That was some great stuff. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll be calling upon you soon to talk some MLB when spring training gets going.
I look forward to that, Dibs. Very much so.
Thank you, my friend. Be well, and hopefully it's not as cold there as it is here.
It's pretty cold, guys. Stay warm.
All right, you too.
Thank
Mike
you,
Petraglia,
Trags.
everybody. CLNS Media. Check out his stuff online. It's fantastic. We'll take a quick break. Be back with First Dibs question of the day.
Delay.